Long nights and early mornings, feeling misunderstood and lonely, constant hard work and self-doubt. This is all part of having the courage to chase your dreams and become successful. Are you going to take the risk? I have, and it's worth it. Don't be afraid to take risk and fail. These are the experiences that will help you grow and evolve into a better version of yourself. Start today, be better tomorrow.
Welcome to the JA Guam Podcast. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the host and guests, and not necessarily to Junior Achievement Guam or its affiliates.
Welcome to week number 9 in this year's student company program. We're getting closer and closer to the end. Today we don't have Pinky Lujan here, who's our executive director. But what she'd be telling us was this week is all about working on your sales pitch and your company presentation. We will be working with the students for one day, and then the following couple days we're going to be recording you and putting you on social media. So today in our studio, today on Zoom, we have Kris Lujan, who's another board member, but she's also the vice president of marketing for JA Enterprises. And she does fantastic work, and I love her to death. So we're going to just kind of talk a little bit about what we expect to come out of this whole pitch, what we're thinking should be going through the students' minds, and the advisors to be helping them along. So I guess I'll just ask you, Kris, when you think of a 1-minute pitch, what are some of the things that start coming to mind that these students should be thinking about?
Okay, I want to start with, when I think of a 1-minute pitch, I want confidence. I want energy. That's what I want. I want passion, right? That backs their business and their product. I mean, if you can be super excited about something and resonate that so well, I mean, really, you could sell paper clips. You know what I mean? It really is all about presentation, how you present yourself in your pitch. Don't be overly confident. No one likes anyone feeling like, no one likes that arrogance. They want it to be fun, approachable, but definitely speaking from an area of strength, right? So when you're talking about your company and you're pitching your company, I mean, just like anything that you're selling, you definitely want to know everything you need to know about your product, right? The need that it fills, right? The quality that backs it, the values that back it, all of these are so important.
Why it fits the trend right now, what's kind of going out in the marketplace, why it's important at this time. And it could be something that's even nostalgic, that people are buying because it reminds them of something in the past that's not necessarily trending right now, but it just brings back good memories.
Yes, emotionally connecting. Yeah. Emotionally connecting, right? Yeah, we want to emotionally connect our brand with the buyer. That's what we're looking for, right?
So it was funny because when I called you the other day to ask if you wanted to do this, for whatever reason, I was singing Oscar Mayer's bologna commercial in my head out of the blue. So do you remember that song?
Yeah, well, no, sing it for me. Sing it for me.
My bologna has a first name, it's OSEAR. My bologna has a second name, it's MEYER. Oh, I love to eat it every day. And if you ask me why, I'll say, because Oscar Mayer has a name with BOLOGNA. And that little kid on the fishing boat. But it's one of those things that jingles are really nice. And so I kind of went back on YouTube and I was looking at, just the different jingles that went around with that kind of stuff, with commercials. So what kind of because again, it's like Nestle's, Nestles. Nestle's make the very best chocolate. I mean, that was what, 60s or something? And they'll stay with you, 40, 50 years later.
Or sometimes it's a sound, right? Maybe it's, background music, or it's a look, right? I mean, what are some brand logos that resonate with you, right? I mean, you're immediately connected to them somehow, whether it's aesthetically, musically, right? That's what gets them. But then there's there's the brand behind it, right? There's further connecting with, the customer, right? And
automotive commercials.
Yes.
Automotive commercials really went into all that, the music, Born to be Wild, because I just sing so well. So, and then I was kind of thinking about, okay, so it's 1 minute is pretty short.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it, it feels like it's taking you forever. So it's practice. Yes. Make sure you're getting everything in there. Like you said, make it short, make it clear. Who is your target audience? That's the other thing that I've talked to a couple different these student companies, is that they're creating a, let's say it's a coloring book or an activity book, but is it for little kids? Is it for high school kids? Is it for adults? So where is it really going to? Because if they define the market or who you're kind of talking to, other people can still come in, but that way who you're talking to, so your pitch can be a little bit more directed. Right?
Yes, agreed. Speak to them at their level, right? So you're right. I mean, if you're targeting children with that, then you would definitely have a more simplified approach, right? Get right to what would draw them in, or the parents, right? Are you speaking to the parents? Be very relevant in your message. And remember that just because you built the product does not mean that you are who, the product speaks to, right? Meg, I mean, I don't know how many times I've had JA students do their pitch with me, and I'm like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to me or you? I feel, so there's this balance that you have to have, where you're not overly confident, but that you're meeting them where they're at, the level that they're at, and why this fits right in their life, or why this would fill that specific need for that specific target market or that individual they're speaking to.
Right.
So it really does take practice. I really want to encourage, there's never, to me, some of the students may feel that they've over practiced, where they're kind of losing, like, oh, I've done it so much, I've overdone it, and now I'm just like, and then they get nervous, right?
Yes.
So that really what it is be so well versed in your product that when it comes down to how you relay that, it comes out so smooth, right? It's
natural.
Yeah, it's very natural.
Right. It's not memorized, because that's what happens. A lot of people think they need to memorize it. And then once they memorize it, as soon as they miss a line, they freeze up, and all of a sudden they don't know what to do, right? Or what to say. And then it goes silent, and you have and especially like on radio or something, that's that ear time that you lose, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Don't lose your customer. Don't lose the momentum of your pitch. Just pick up from where you left off. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And practice really.
Yeah, and I kind of think if if you're telling a story, it makes more sense. It's easier flow, because you know where the story's going to go. So even if you mix up a detail in the middle of the story still has it's still about the story. It's not about that detail. You know, sometimes it's like, I've been in conversations where somebody, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, think about it as a book you love to read, and you've read it over like 50 times. And when someone asks you about that book, you're going to tell them what you love about it, right? And you're going to pull all the parts about it that sold you on it. And that's all you're going to highlight, right? Super quick. You know you're going to lose their attention span.
And I'd probably say another thing that's really important is emotion.
Yeah.
To put emotion in there, because I'm going to use this as an example. So this was one of the products from one of our companies, the People Company. And this was called the Tau Tau Teddy Bear. And these guys ended up going to Jakarta as representing Guam for the Company of the Year competition for Asia Pacific. But this was created by a group, and the president of the company was a foster child. And so the teddy bear was, they talked about the teddy bear representing, a kid's toy. It's always one of those cuddler kind of things. And then they had the whole Chamorro, the sword was for strength, and the necklace was culture, and some, so they all, I can't remember everything that they said about it. But the main thing is this. And then one of the pitches, they said, as far as expanding their market, you just change the outfit. So you could actually put this in different countries or different areas or whatever, because it's still about foster child, and it was really about raising awareness and getting, the awareness of foster care versus just selling this little,
Exactly.
teddy bear. Because otherwise, it's so small. What would it be for? All that kind of stuff. But it's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. When our JA group when we put together the bow ties, right? Collar couture.
Yes.
One of the things that everyone on the team was so passionate about was because they were all pet friendly. They all had pet friendly families. They all had dogs, cats. And one thing that really resonated with all of them was, how could we help the problem on Guam with stray dogs, right? And the issue with that. So they partnered with the Guam Animals in Need, and that was their pitch, Meg. I mean, they were so passionate about it. They went and dedicated their time at GAIN so that they could get down and dirty with these animals and get totally connected in that way, so that they knew when they were out there making their pitch, they were so passionate. You could see, look, it's not just a bow tie, but these bow ties are going to go to these animals that are going to get adopted, and we're going to dress them up, we're going to clean them up, we're going to get them fed with this purchase of this bow tie. We're going to get them fed, and they're going to find homes. And when you're watching a student pitch that, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a dog, but let me help you,
Well, yeah. And it was a great gift if you knew somebody that had a dog, you could get it for them to have their dogs. So it wasn't just for the dogs at GAIN, but it was also people who had their own dogs. So it was a great product, and the marketing behind the product and everything was great. You added even a calendar, with some information about GAIN and about dog care and all that kind of stuff to it. It was awesome.
Yeah, and it was a great opportunity, right? Whenever it's great if your business aligns itself, right, with very positive things. It's what keeps our community that we all live in thrive, right? When we're helping one another. And I think that's important. So if your business or product is aligned with something like that, you want to talk about it, include that in your pitch, right?
Yes. One of the other things that I want to say about it is that your president that year, she was, I think, the president the year before too, or maybe a VP. Okay. But she had a real strong personality. Who we're talking about.
Yes.
So, which is fine. I mean, she's awesome. But the first year, I mean, that was kind of the feedback. And I remember giving her some of that feedback, is that her personality was very controlling. She wanted to take a lot of the work on herself and make sure it was right. And, was very, and that's all I can say. I mean, one of the things you mentioned about is energy and everything, but it's that team, that having the whole team's buy-in on the pitch and on the product. So, but she was so controlling that there was a lot of disengagement by her fellow teammates. But when you guys did the collar couture and she became the president that year, she was flipped totally over, and she was all inclusive. She, made sure everybody had their part. It wasn't about her anymore. It wasn't about just the success, like a 360, right? Or maybe a 180.
Yeah, 180.
But she switched, right? 180. Yeah. So she really switched it around. But, because both products were great, but one was so much more successful, but that comes to teamwork and commitment and buy-in and all those things. Your
entire team needs to be on board with the pitch. In other words, even if they are not presenting alongside you, you need to get their buy-in because they're selling it for you, right? So even if you're the one getting judged, I mean, you all need to practice as if you were all getting judged, right?
Right.
So that's important. And I'll tell you, she took third place that second year. We took third place in
Japan, right?
Yeah.
In the Company of the Year competition. Yep.
She stressed it to everybody. And even now as she mentors, right, in college, she can't stress enough the importance of a team approach to everything.
Right.
And
I'm going to probably have her on one of these interviews soon because, you know, I had Jay on, and, you know, he even talked about it as far as what it's done for even her college career. Yeah. And, you know, just getting in and everything else. She knows JA paid a huge benefit towards that. Yeah. The other thing is, when you talked about energy, I'm going to talk about, you guys also made the mask one year. Yeah. This was before COVID, just 2 years before its time type thing. But it was based on the same thing of, you know, that the Japanese were kind of use the mask a lot when they're sick, and, you know, it's just being common courtesy, that kind of thing. But the biggest thing that affected that, because the product was awesome, the marketing and everything was, you know, Triple J standards. You guys did a great job helping them out. And but the thing is that you had lost a lot of the team members. Yeah. And so it was down to, like, I think 2 people doing the whole presentation, and you could just kind of see them kind of like dejected and whatever. And it's just, you know, and you could feel it. And it's like everything else was so perfect, but their energy just brought it down. They could have taken it away. And I think of that with a couple of companies that I've worked with where they had an awesome product, but the kids were either just too shy, they didn't want to practice, I think that was the 2 things. They weren't confident and they didn't want to practice. And they thought, no problem, we've got this. Yeah. And
was so good, right? But no, it didn't, because they thought their product was so good, right? They thought, oh, it could sell itself.
Yeah.
Don't ever take that for granted, because it's super important not to lose momentum, right? Keep your team together, keep everyone focused, stay engaged. And even if some fall off, keep that momentum going with whoever's left, right, Meg? Because it really carries through, right? And remember that you're representing a company. Even if you're alone, you're still representing the company.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were telling me the story about, you know, we started looking at different people's, like, we were thinking about, the pitch or the trend, what's relevant right now with COVID. And my comment is, COVID has nothing to do with this, because COVID will go, and a good product is going to continue regardless of the events happening around us, the environment around us to an extent. And, but one of the things we were talking about some of these people who are just doing stuff on Instagram. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, a lot of times your advertising isn't even about, you know, you have to sell the product, but it's really about the brand and just the product itself. So if you have a great presence, so we were talking about 2. You were talking about what was that name you mentioned? Better Day Guam. Yeah. And I was talking about Hibiscus Guam, which is my sister-in-law's business. Yeah. And I mean, Hibiscus Guam, she doesn't have any kind of full-on pitch or anything behind it. She just takes photos of her stuff, and she normally has it around, you know, nature to an extent, and she just puts that on it. But she doesn't say, this is great, it's made by this, and we've done that, you know. It's just her product. But the way she comes across, you know that it's real. You know that it's, you know, why, you know, people buy it because they want to buy it. They don't need a whole lot of explanation to buy a pair of earrings.
Exactly. But I like where you were going. Like, telling a story helps it live on. You know, you want your brand to live on past COVID, right? Right. We talked about, if your brand is good enough, it can adapt to any environment, right? Any market condition. So cover all your bases, right? So, like, in a time of COVID, this is the area it addresses. If it wasn't, it would still address this area of your need, right? So cover all your bases, and that is something that's really important for teams to look at. Don't just put your product out there, and because it's trending right now, think that that's going to be a long-standing approach, right?
Right.
Is that really going to work? But if you're telling a story, right? If you're resonating with your customer base and you're living on, you're adapting, yes, but your product will live on, take that approach and take the time to do the pitch.
Yeah. It's that big difference between a fad and, a fad and something that's a real need or fills a need. Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, I've read this before. The difference between like Apple and Microsoft, right? Microsoft is still a better product. Again, this is coming from the techie world or whatever, but look how many people want Apple just because of the way it pitches things, just because of the way what it represents, and on and on and on. But it doesn't necessarily mean the best product always wins.
Yeah.
It's really about your marketing. And that's, in a way, that could be sad, because you're it's like so popular. Oh, I need to get one of these things, and you get it. And it's like, well, the one that I had for $10 was so much better than this one I bought for $50. And what's the difference? But it's like you get sold on, that's where you got to watch out that you don't bamboozle. I like that word. Somebody, right?
But even even for their brand, right? They went through years, decades, right, of going through their own, right, struggles. And so that's the thing, look at any struggle, especially now. I'm sure these students are struggling with certain things, personal, whatever, their schoolwork, whatever. But one thing that's really great is how they come out of these struggles, right? And they stick together and they continue the work that is needed to put into the product or service that they're providing. And some of the best products or services that have come out of JA have come out, right, from these struggles that these companies have had to endure. So don't lose faith. Don't lose faith, right? Don't lose faith on that. Yeah. Especially with
and then and then the other thing is, even though we're talking about a pitch right now, but I'm going to say it also comes with follow-up and service and everything else. Yeah. You can promise somebody the moon, you can say it's a great need, and it could be, but if you don't follow up, if you don't watch your quality, if you don't watch, the service behind it, that will be known really fast.
Exactly.
That'll be one of those things that are fixed really fast. So, let's think of some products. Let's think of some other products that have been sold.
Like locally?
Well, yeah. So one of the things I'll think of is last year, I want to say, was it last year, the year before? But company did the jewelry made out of, the necklaces and stuff made out of beach glass. And, again, it's just beach glass. It's just fun on the road. I go into Pinterest or Etsy, and I find just a ton of, things made from rocks, things made from, rocks from
shells,
glass, from, wire, whatever. So, for instance, one of the things I make, I got all this stuff. Listen, look at me. I know it. But one of the things I did is I paint rocks, right? So I paint these rocks, but I was selling them, and it's like they're really cool and they're pretty and all that kind of stuff. But it's like when I was selling them, it's like I'm just selling my artwork and they're rocks and they're cool. But it was like, okay, well, I had to say, it could be a paperweight, or sometimes I would put behind it something like I'd put a name on the back that might say something like creativity or energy or excitement, and people would go, oh wow, I like this one, this is about energy. But the thing is that you set that in the mind, and that was it. It was, for me, it's my creative energy, and that's what that part of my company is called, is creative energy. But that's the whole thing, is that, then you kind of think of the different ways that this can help. Or you can make it into a kit. Somebody can, you can make it into a kit that people can paint themselves. Or it could be, like I said, weight. It's a great gift for somebody to put on their office to remind them, blue skies and heaven above. And I'm just thinking about anything. I'm looking at stuff around my office of things that I've bought, and it's like, what made me buy it?
Exactly.
And when we had Charlie on the show not too long ago, when he was doing the Guam gift boxes, that was the whole thing, was it's memories of Guam. So you're creating something that's just creating, the group, I'm trying to think of Creativity. I think it's named, I can't remember the name, KUM's group. And their company is doing a book, like an activities book, and it'll have like recipes and stuff like that, but it's all Chamorro culture. And so the same thing, it's keeping that culture alive, but at the same time it's being given to people that are outside of Guam, right? It can be sent to anybody, and when there's different activities to do, it's memories of the trip, hey, I learned how to make finadeni, look, I still have the recipe, or I tasted this great stuff.
I'm trying to think about the products that were by the JA students. There were some fun ones. Gosh, there's so many. I'm trying to think of one that I'm even thinking of the products that we saw at the international competition. The one that I can recall, and this was the year that Collar Couture won, was the desktop organizer. Now you can get a desktop organizer made anywhere, but it was made out of rice from the rice fields, right? That workers in underserved communities were working in. And so what it was taking all of the pieces left over from these rice fields where these workers were laboring, and using the waste product and making a desktop organizer. And then the money was going back into helping feed families, right? Out of this, right? So, I mean, to me, I'm like, and it was a cool looking product. It was actually really cool looking. I wish I had it in front of me, but I actually still use it. But really it was the story behind it. It was their pitch, right? It was their pitch. I was like, wow, I really feel so, I mean, goodness, you think of first world problems, right? I mean, you're giving me this, and then there really is this need that I am disconnected from, and so I love that approach, right? It's memorable.
Another company took old uniforms, old class uniforms, and they ended up stuffing them, right? And so it was kind of like a pillow. So it could be a pillow to rest your head on. It could be a pillow to sit in the bleachers to watch a football game or basketball game or whatever. But the main thing is it was, an old uniform turned into this pillow that still, supported the school colors, etc. Right? So it's like you said, it's taken a lot. Sometimes it's taking waste and creating something out of waste. And nowadays, with all the waste, I mean, one company took their company sponsor gave them a bunch of their old uniforms that people had returned in, right? And they made a bunch of pillows, and they stuffed them with plastic bags because we have so many plastic bags on Guam. We've done that with wind chimes, and we did it with bottle caps. How many bottle caps? And we went to a bunch of the bars and got a bunch of bottle caps, and then started stringing those together, and we started making, they sound kind of good. There's something different, and there's something nostalgic about having, a bunch of beer bottle caps or soda bottle caps or whatever hanging and making the noise, whatever. So it doesn't have to be and that's what we always talk about. It doesn't have to be a brand new product.
Exactly.
But it just has to be different. And what's the story behind the product? And that's...
And Meg, if it's not different, if somebody else has it on the market, then what makes yours stand out more, right? Remember, especially if, who you're speaking to can find it somewhere else, what makes yours better, right?
Right.
Make sure that I like that.
Yeah, it's sort of like, and I'm going to use cars. I grew up in the automotive industry, right? But it's the same thing. Why would somebody go to ABC Ford versus MNLOP Ford or XYZ Ford? They're all selling the exact same product. So what makes them different? I know it's the service, but it's also it's but it's the service of everybody. It's not just service in the dealership, in the service department. It's when you walk in the door, it's the environment you're walking into. It's just how people are smiling and saying hello to you. It's, and some
entire company.
Right. It's the entire company. So that's one of the things that they have to look at. And that goes back to that energy of everybody having the buy-in and the connection all together.
Exactly. They've all read the same story and they could all tell the same story. Even if some of the details are a little different, they all meet, right? Full circle.
Right.
Brand. So I think that's important.
So, and then, one of the things is also, like, they can always change up. So it could be, for instance, and I'm thinking of, again, automotive, just because of my background and how it's changed through the years, right? So the pitch, the product the product changes and grows, but the pitch has changed. So it might be like a one word, all of a sudden they're associating a word with it, or they're putting a question to it, right? Or they're rhyming, they're making a song or a rhyme that, tells the same story. It could be, video-ish kind of pitch versus print ad. So, it's also about mixing it up a little bit, but, most people especially that we're doing a lot online right now, it's really about getting out there. The more people see it in front of their face, that's what also gets the traction, right? It's like you have a great product, a great pitch, but you only have it in one place, same thing. You're not going to see it.
And that's what's so important about this pitch, because you can build your brand advocacy, right? So if you make this pitch solid and you have convinced enough people, in the market, right, to buy into this product, you're now building up testimonials. You can use them in your ads. They can speak on your behalf. I mean, that's the most fantastic feeling, is that when someone outside of your company can talk about your product or service, right? It lives on, right, beyond the company, right? Yeah. So it's important that they look at the pitch in that way, because they're going to build their following in that way, and other people are going to sell it for them, right?
Right. So before we close up, I guess, would there be 3 recommendations, your top 3 recommendations to the students when it comes to, solidifying their pitch this week?
Okay. Well, I think I said it in the beginning, but just the ones that I know have worked. Again, have the entire team buy in, whether or not they're doing the pitch, because they can help you, right? They can help bring in different perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why practice is super important, Meg. I can't stress that enough. I don't know how many times my own teams have practiced, and then on pitch day, it was completely different, but it worked. It's because they need to go through that trial and error, right? Speak with confidence, speak with passion, keep it short. Don't go over that 1 minute, because you're going to lose. It's like a commercial. Like you said, the ones that stick are the short, sweet, and to the point ones, right? So get right to the point. So that's super important. And if it does something to help the community, or if it's giving back in any way, include that, because that is a huge selling point. Anything that gives back to the community, anything that helps, the underserved, right? That's so important. So include that. I think I went over 3, but those are really important.
No. And although, one of the things, and I'm going to just veer off real quick, but the company. So when you're talking about the company, that's the other thing to add in is, what did you get out of it? Right? So when you're talking about a company, it's like, this is really about learning. These students are, this company program is really about what the students learn. So one of the things that can be part of a sales pitch is the benefit to those who created it, right? So it's not only benefiting you, but it's benefiting us which is our family, which is our community, and all those other things, right? So I think, I mean, and that's where I think I like the Tautau teddy bear. It's, you know, it's what everybody learned within the company about foster care, but how we spread the word that much more. So that could be part of that company portion of it. But, you know, people, you know, I mean, you don't, you know, I've seen students who have done really well because, you know, they're playing that, you know, oh, I'm a student, I'm, you know, whatever, you're going to buy our products with mom and dad, whatever. And it's like, no, you know, take that next step up and think of it as a real product that can continue on beyond the 15-week program.
Yes.
Right?
Can you imagine if Mass GU was still here?
Yes.
You guys are making some serious money. I'm telling you, they were ahead of their time. So
yes. Darn it. So, okay. Well, thank you, Kris. Students, have a great week. Get your pitches ready. We're excited to hear it. Kris and I will both be on listening to you guys, giving you some feedback. And remember, feedback is, you know, just it's a way to learn and get better. So don't be worried about, you know, being perfect. You know, nobody's perfect. And we'll see you this week, and then we'll have the final, so it will be recorded and put out there on social media. So enjoy. Thanks, Kris. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Adios.
Adios.